Hello, everyone. Happy New Year! Happy New Year 2025, everybody. This is Donald Earl Collins, and here we are once again with Fool's Gold Confessions from an Educated Fool. Welcome to the 2025 edition of all that I have to offer in video and in writing and in maybe music, maybe comedianship too. I don't know. But here we are. Here we are, Martin Luther King's commemorative holiday, commemorating his birthday. If he had somehow lived, would be 96 years old today. I mean, 96 years old as of 5 days ago, actually, which happens to coincide with Inauguration Day, and it's an unfortunate double holiday day for those of us in the DMV and other parts of the country that recognize both days, because Trump's in his second term. And I want to talk to you in more detail about what I've posted today around distractions and escapism. Um, and it really stems from I thought about writing about something along these lines, but what really prompted me was falling asleep about a week ago to NBA Game Time. Post game show that talks really about the games of the day and about some of the events of the day as they not connect to basketball. And the crew that was on that night happened to be talking about the fires in Los Angeles, the tremendous amount of damage, communities, including Altadena, that have been burned down, the people who've been killed, et cetera, offering up their thoughts and prayers and trying to be thoughtful about it. And Vince Carter, who was on this program, was particularly thoughtful. Whereas Lauren Jabbar, the announcer, the host of the show, wasn't. Simple as that. And I just want to read her statement again that I quoted in my latest Substack. We're thinking of you guys in LA and Los Angeles. It's really awesome that both the Lakers and the Clippers are able to play at home tonight. Maybe a little of a distraction for some people through sports. Like this is the greatest thing since sliced bread to be distracted. And I'm not poo-pooing being distracted. That doesn't mean that I'm less fun at parties or more fun at parties. I really don't really give a shit whether I'm fun at parties or not because I find those parties freaking boring. But that's neither here nor there. This statement is vapid on its face, right? Because if you've had any experience with massive fires anywhere, whether it's in LA or somewhere else, and you know that people have been burned out and people might have lost their lives, then you know basketball's not really a great distraction. Really, none of the sports are great distractions. Nothing is a distraction from the reality that there are many apocalypses happening to people's families and communities, particularly black ones, in Southern California right now. So, and I'm wearing a shirt today, and if I scoot down a little bit, it says privilege. When you think something isn't a problem because it doesn't affect you personally. And I point that out to point out the fact that Laura Jabbar exercised quite a bit of privilege in that statement, right? This is me saying we need to be more serious, but I also recognize the fact that everyone wants to be entertained. Even people in the middle of war, even kids in the middle of a genocide in Palestine or Gaza need some entertainment. But there's a difference between entertainment and distractions to the point of escapism, right? And in our society, in the US, in the West, and in much of the world, we've gotten to the point where we think that distractions are more than just healthy. We have unhealthy distractions. We're constantly in need of being entertained and constantly in need of trying to escape the reality and the difficulties of living in a world that might be on fire and being flooded at the same time because of climate change and the warming of the planet that comes with it, right? But the truth is that we can't afford to be this distracted, to the point where we're distracted by everything, right? I think about the ways in which I've distracted myself, both personally and professionally, over the years, right? I spent a whole year, my whole senior year of high school, first semester of college, trying to escape the realities of adulthood, only to have it bite me in the ass with a 2.63 GPA after one semester, which is why, for the remainder of the time I was in school, I was basically a 3.6 student. So there's that, right? Something akin to what we're going through right now politically. After Bush v. Gore and after W became president in '01 with Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney and that whole crew of autocrats sending us to war and putting us in perpetual war throughout the 8 years of their office, I tuned them out. I tuned it out after a while. I said, let me work on my career. Let me believe in merit for myself. Let me believe in merit for my family. Let me believe that I can earn my way to an upper middle class income and stability. None of it worked out, mind you, but I shut it all out for like 4 or 5 years until I couldn't do it anymore, right? And I dumbed myself down to the process of doing so. My own life is an example, professionally, personally, what happens when you entertain yourself too much, when you decide to use entertainment, music, arts, literature, sports, etc., as a way to escape the realities of life, the realities that life is hard, the realities that we live under oppressive regimes, the realities that the world is going to be on fire, like it or not, because of everything that we're facing between drought and flood and, rising oceans and loss of a lot of life forms because we refuse to do anything about the reality that this planet is going through. And the truth of the matter is that that's how the powers that be want it. The powers that be want to make us squeeze as many dollars out of our bodies, minds, and spirits as possible while they take the world with them, right? They're going to dig big holes, put themselves in gigantic caves, and try to wait everything out while they destroy the planet. That's what they're going to do, right? They might build themselves the Elysium that orbits the planet as the planet floods and fires itself and kills off lots of life in the process. They might settle on the moon for all we know. They have enough money to do it. But whatever they're going to do, they're only doing for themselves. That 1/10 of 1% to 1% of the population that has enough wealth to do these sorts of things because they're taking wealth, extracting wealth from the planet and extracting our labor from us and building that wealth means that the rest of us, we're doomed. Or to put it another way, we're fucked. We're cooked, as Gen Zers would say. They cooked us. We cooked, right? That kind of thing, right? So to put levity on this because I love sports. I love playing sports growing up. I love trying to make teams in high school and making the football team in high school and things of that nature. I love playing sports when I was in graduate school. I learned how to play basketball like the way a college basketball player would play basketball while I was a graduate student playing with college ready players and people had played at Pitt and so on and so forth. So it's not like I don't like sports. I love sports. I love working out. I love when I can shave some weight off and like, wow, I learned how to do that left-handed today, or I learned how to do this, this move in basketball or some other sport that I hadn't learned how to do. Yeah, even at 55, I'm still learning things about how to make my body do certain things, just as my body started to decline. This is great, right? So it's not like I don't think we deserve to be entertained. That's not it at all. But as I said, in talking about the distraction of a handshake, which is a New York Times article from what used to be called the LEAD, Lede, the elitist way of spelling the word lead, from 2013. This is during Nelson Mandela's wake and funeral in South Africa, where President Barack Obama went to South Africa to be part of that wake and funeral procession. And he happened to shake the hand of Raul Castro, the brother of Fidel Castro, because Fidel, I don't think he was dead yet, but he was on death's door, and Raul had taken over the presidency for Cuba at the time. So they shook hands, and all the media people were like, this is great, they're shaking hands. What does this mean for diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Cuba and all this other stuff, right? But I was like, this is what I wrote my blog post on the 13th of December, no, excuse me, the 10th of December of 2013. God, please don't let the most significant takeaway from the Mandela Memorial Service be that Obama shook hands with Raul Castro. Hashtag missing the point. This got me in the New York Times for the first time, right? Of all the things I've written, of all the things I've published, this is what made the New York Times. But I made the point here, and it's a really good one. that we cannot afford to be distracted by all these little tiny things and keep our eyes on the larger picture, right? We're in a situation now where Trump is in a second term to basically fulfill his destiny of basically gutting the country for spare parts for him and all of his cronies. Crony capitalism and autocracy is what we're facing right now. What Sarah Kinzier calls kleptocracy, um, is what we're facing right now. And in facing that, that doesn't mean that you should never watch an NBA game. Doesn't mean you shouldn't watch any sports. Doesn't mean that the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef shouldn't get any airtime. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, if that's all you care about are the beefs, is all you care about is, oh my God, Trump did this today. Oh my God, Trump did that today. Oh my God, you know what? Trump's hires are actually sleazeballs. Why are you shocked? Why would you be shocked by any of this shit? There's no reason to be shocked by any of this, right? And so, just to give you a list of people to not pay attention to for the next 4 years, so that it is clear that we can keep our eyes on the ball, that we've got a rising autocracy, and we need to meet that with protests, with boycotts, with organizing for a third viable party, with some form of collective resistance, because each of us doing it on our own is not going to be enough, right? Maybe, as incompetent and as craven as this administration is, they'll probably ignore the majority of us telling the rest of the world how evil they are, right? But if they get to the point where they actually exercise our autocracy in other sort of Gestapo kinds of ways, like arresting journalists and wannabe journalists and people like me who are writer journalists, scholarly type people, and so on, then collective action's the only defense against those sorts of things. But in terms of what journalists are doing, whether it's Lauren Jabara, right? I don't expect a lot from sports journalists regardless of society, because they're in their own little elitist bubble anyway. But political journalists in their own way are just as bad, because they think they're smart. They think they're smarter. They think they're the smartest journalists of all the journalists out there, when are not really smart. They just have to ask more, maybe do a little bit more analysis or ask savvier questions, because they're talking to a little bit more serious people. But as we well know, a lot of the politicians that they deal with are just as unserious, if not more so, than most of the athletes who give rote answers to journalists all the time. So neither here nor there. But here's my list: Nate Silver, Maggie Haberman, Glenn Greenwald, Chris Cillizza, my goodness, Chris Cillizza, Thomas Friedman, Chris Hayes, Matt Taibbi. Too bad he didn't take after his dad, Mike Taibbi. I at least watching WNBC TV New York growing up with his investigative journalism. But Matt's terrible. Matthew Iglesias, Ezra Klein, Michelle Goldberg. I mean, Jonathan Capehart can go up there as far as I'm concerned, too. Don Lemon, if he ever gets another job, you can put him up there, too. In their own way, they've all contributed to this distraction by basically showing aghast and constant agapement at everything that Trump and his administration did for 4 years, Trump and his elections in 2016, 2020, and now 2024. And they'll likely do the same thing between now and whenever Trump leaves office, dies, whatever, right? So don't pay attention to these people. Pay attention to the big picture. Pay attention to what's happening, what Trump and them are doing, not so much what these individual journalists are saying, and become part of something larger than yourself, so that you're not in escapism mode, so that you're not distracted, you're not just sitting this out. I know a lot of black women talk about sitting out. Well, sit out these people. That's definitely something you should do. Sit out these folks. Sit out folks who come to you with the idea that you should join hand in hand with people who will all more than likely abandon you the second that trouble shows up. Show up for folks. Show up for each other. Don't even show up for other black men. Don't even necessarily show up for me, right? Show up so that other people might join you as you lead us, rather than the other way around. You shouldn't be joining up with folks who are promising that we'll hold your hand through all of this. You don't need to hold hands. We need to dig. We need to dig and build. And so we don't need these distractions, this escapism. to do all of that. And that's all I'm trying to say today. In the meantime, for those of you who want to contribute to my Substack but don't have $5 a month or $50 a year or anything along those lines, I have a buy me a cup of coffee button in my Substacks now. So if you just want to send me $4 here or $4 there, that's fine with me. Just be able to buy me the equivalent of what a cup of coffee cost this time 10 years ago. It's perfectly fine. I do need more income in order to keep this going, and that's my appeal to you, to try to keep this going. But if you don't have it, you don't have it. If you do have it, $4 here or there, that's fine with me, just as long as I can keep this going. So thanks again for listening to me. Thanks again for reading. Appreciate it. I'll have more to put up as we move through the year. Again, Happy New Year, even on this day.